Imagine a quiet Welsh village nestled in a valley surrounded by rolling green hills where life moves at a gentle pace and the rhythm of daily existence is marked by a local coal mines that have sustained the community for generations. Aberfan, a small mining village in South Wales, was just such a place. But on October 21, 1966, tranquility shattered in the most devastating way imaginable. In the hours of the day, a massive landslide of coal spoil, the waste material from the nearby colliery, came crashing down from a tip on the hillside, engulfing homes, a school, and claiming the lives of 144 people, including 116 children. The Aberfan disaster shocked not only Wales but the entire world, exposing the dangers to industrial negligence and forever marking a community's collective memory. This is the story of Aberfan, a tragedy born from human error, ignored warnings, and the community's resilience in the face of unimaginable loss. Aberfan was a typical South Wales mining village, its identity intertwined with a coal mine that had operated there since the late 19th century. The Pantglas and Merthyr Vale collieries provided employment for most of the adults and shaped every aspect of the village life. Coal mining was hard, dangerous work, but it was the lifeblood of the community. Families lived close to the pits, and the mines operated deep into the night. The waste from mining, the rock spoil and shale, was piled into massive spoil tips on the hillside above the village. These tips were a common sight in the mining areas, and while they were exposed to be managed safely, the ones above Aberfan would become the source of a disaster. By 1966, the coal tips above Aberfan were enormous, some reaching heights of 100 feet or more. Residents had expressed concern over the size and stability for years. Reports of small slips and slides were not uncommon. As early as 1963, experts warned of potential instability. Local residents, miners, and teachers noticed cracks and signs of movement. Yet, despite these warnings, the National Coal Board, the NCB, the government body managing the mines, continued to allow the tip that would cause the disaster, Tip 7, was positioned above the Pantglas Junior School and a row of houses, a decision that would prove catastrophic. On the morning of October 21, 1966, heavy rain soaked the hillside. Water had seeped into the soil tip, saturating it and making it unstable. At 9:15, without warning, around 140,000 cubic meters of slurry, a watery mixture of waste, broken free from Tip 7 and thundered down the slope. The landslide moved rapidly, engulfing 19 houses and the school buildings in minutes. At Pantglas Junior School, children were arriving for class, playing in the schoolyard, and settling in when the black mass of slurry and debris crashed into the classrooms and homes alike. Teachers and parents tried desperately to rescue those trapped, but the scale of the disaster overwhelmed them. Rescue workers from nearby towns rushed to the scene. Volunteers, miners, police officers, and soldiers all joined the desperate search for survivors amid the mud and wreckage. Despite heroic efforts, the death toll was staggering. 144 people, including 116 children, aged only between 7 and 10, perished. The community was left shattered, with almost every single family affected. The disaster was covered extensively in the media, provoking outrage over how such negligence could occur. A public inquiry was launched, headed by Lord Justice Edmund Davies. His report was scathing. The National Court Board was found grossly negligent, having failed to act on warnings, allowed dangerous tip to grow unchecked, and ignored the risks posed to the village. Despite the finding, there was no criminal charges brought against the NCB. The disaster led to changes in how coal tips were managed and stricter safety regulations were introduced. The Aberfan disaster left a permanent scar on the community and the nation. A memorial garden was created on the site, and annual commemorations honored those lost. The tragedy also reshaped attitudes towards industrial safety and government accountability. In the wake of the disaster, while the nation mourned and inquiry proceedings loomed, something strange began to surface. People from all over the UK began reporting that they or someone they knew had experienced premonitions about the Aberfan disaster before it happened. Many of these accounts were dreams, vivid, disturbing dreams of collapsing earth, trapped children, and black waves of mud. Among the most chilling was the account of a young girl named Ariel Mai Jones, just 10 years old. The night before the disaster, Ariel told her mother about the dream she had. In it, she said she had been at school, but there was no school. It had vanished. Instead, something dark had come down and covered everything. Her mother would later recount this dream to authorities, heartbroken. Ariel was among the 116 children who died Pantglas Junior School that morning. The story of Ariel's dream wasn't isolated. So many accounts poured in that it caught the attention of Dr. G.C. Barker, a British psychiatrist who specialized in the paranormal. Disturbed by what he was reading, Dr. Barker decided to investigate whether people really could have foreseen such events, or if it was mere coincidence magnified by grief. Along with the editor of the Evening Standard, Dr. Barker issued a public appeal for people to write in with their dreams or premonitions of the Aberfan disaster, but only if they could be proven to have been recorded before the events. What followed was astonishing. Over 60 credible cases were documented where people had written in diaries, told loved ones, or described dreams involving landslides, schools, and trapped children, all before the morning of October 21st. These revelations led to the information of a short-lived but sincere group, often referred to as the Premonition Bureau, a kind of disaster prediction club, if you will. The Bureau began to systematically collect dreams and visions reported by individuals across the UK, hoping that a pattern might emerge and future tragedies could be prevented. They recorded everything: names, timestamps, dream descriptions, and kept detailed logs. The Bureau even began assigning scores to premonition based on how specific they were and apparent accuracy. For a time, there was real optimism that this unconventional approach might actually work. However, over time, cracks appeared. While some premonitions were uncanny, most were vague, conflicting, or came too late. There was also no reliable way to distinguish a legitimate foresight from imagination, coincidence, or even suggestibility. By the early 1970s, the Premonition Bureau disbanded. It never prevented a disaster, but it left behind a compelling archive of humanity's desperate need to make sense of tragedy and a haunting reminder of how the Aberfan disaster didn't just scar a village, but rattled the very fabric of belief. Dr. Barker would later reflect on the effort with mixed emotions. He believed the Bureau was ahead of its time, perhaps too much so, but the story of little Ariel and the chilling coincidence of her dream continued to haunt him and many others for the rest of their lives. Now let's go back to the school, which was demolished after the disaster, and the area where it once stood was transformed into a memorial garden, a peaceful, solemn space honoring the 116 children and 24 adults who lost their lives. But for some, especially those who live in the village or visited late at night, that calm has been accompanied by an unsettling atmosphere. Some of the local accounts over the years include children's laughter and voices. Multiple reports have described hearing children's laughter, distant chatter, or singing near the site, especially in the early mornings or twilight hours when no one is around. These accounts are deeply eerie because there is no school there anymore, just a quiet garden. In some cases, visitors have said they felt like they were being watched or briefly heard the scrape of chairs and desks, as a classroom were still alive somewhere behind the veil of the present. These fleeting sounds vanish quickly, and many have dismissed them as tricks of the wind or memory, but they persist in the local lore. A few people also have reported sharp temperature drops or seeing flickers of movement or lights at the edge of their vision. One visitor described a sudden chill and the feeling of a child's hand brushing theirs, despite standing alone in the garden. Even among those who don't claim to have seen or heard anything paranormal, the memorial garden is often described as having an almost spiritually heavy or emotionally charged presence. The trauma that occurred there was so immense and so specific, a school full of children taken in seconds, that many believe the energy of that moment still lingers. Where there's no formal documentation of regular hauntings like in famously haunted asylums or prisons, Aberfan carries a weight that goes beyond folklore. The voices that echo there may not be ghosts in the traditional sense, but to those who survived and those who lost family, their presence is very much real. Aberfan is more than a tragedy. It's a mirror, a haunting reflection of what happened when warnings go unheard and cost is placed above human life. It's a place where dreams, both real and prophetic, were buried in coal. But Aberfan is also a story of love, of a village that rose in pain, of parents who demanded justice, and a nation that wept, and of children, 116 souls, who still sings somewhere in the valleys of Wales.